The great cosmic clock has quietly struck midnight. This truth evades school curricula and news broadcasts, yet ancient cultures held it sacred. Inscribed within star maps, mythologies, and the guarded wisdom of mystery schools lay a warning. A time would arrive when the earth and all its inhabitants would awaken. That time is now. This transcends mere astrology. It's the blueprint for humanity's next evolutionary leap in consciousness. Forget fleeting horoscopes and worn-out cliches. This is about systemic collapses, the shattering of long-held illusions, and the global unraveling of manufactured realities. The Age of Aquarius is no passing trend. It's a seismic force reshaping everything you believe to be true. Millennia before modern science attempted to chart the cosmos with equations and telescopes, ancient civilizations understood a fundamental truth. Time isn't linear. It moves in cycles, vast cosmic spirals that influence not only seasons and generations, but the very fabric of human consciousness. The great cosmic year, spanning approximately 25,120 years, is dictated by the Earth's slow, majestic wobble on its axis, known as the precession of the equinoxes. This subtle astronomical shift causes our planet to gradually realign with different constellations over vast stretches of time, with each constellation governing an age, and each age subtly yet profoundly shaping life on Earth. You know the zodiac, those 12 signs reduced to personality profiles and fleeting Instagram memes. But their original purpose was far more profound. These weren't simply for individual character assessments, they were the energetic markers of ages through which humanity has journeyed. There was the Age of Taurus, characterized by a preoccupation with materialism and earth-based spiritual practices. We then transitioned into Aries, the Age of War and Conquest, a period marked by relentless expansion and conflict. Subsequently, we entered Pisces, an age defined by belief, dogma, sacrifice, and often unquestioning faith. Now, that chapter is closing and we are stepping into Aquarius, a sign ruled not by fleeting emotions or rigid control, but by the pursuit of truth, relentless innovation, unwavering independence, and collective evolution. This is why the world feels like it's cracking open, because it is. We stand at the precipice of a once-in-26,000-year reset, a turning of the cosmic wheel from which nothing escapes. Systems that flourished under antiquated paradigms begin to crumble. Worldviews that once seemed logical begin to disintegrate. You may find yourself questioning everything, not because you are flawed, but because your soul is awakening to a truth far deeper than you've been taught. The Age of Aquarius isn't a fantastical myth. It's a fundamental shift in the energetic atmosphere of our planet. Just as the sun influences your physical and mental state during different seasons, these immense cosmic alignments influence human consciousness on a generational scale. The ancients didn't merely gaze at the stars, they listened intently. They understood that the universe communicates through vibrational frequencies, and that these frequencies, when altered, recalibrate life on Earth. The apparent chaos you are witnessing is not evidence that the world is ending. It is proof that a significant cycle is coming to a close. That cycle, the Age of Pisces, was built on faith without understanding. We were conditioned to blindly trust institutions, unquestioningly follow leaders, and sacrifice individuality in exchange for a false sense of belonging. That age gave us elaborate religions, inspiring tales of martyrdom and comforting myths of salvation. But it also saddled us with crippling guilt, corrosive shame, and insidious control veiled as morality. It taught us to seek answers outside ourselves, to believe rather than to know, but in this dawning era, belief alone is no longer sufficient. Aquarius demands clarity, it compels sovereignty, it forces uncomfortable truths to the surface, regardless of our readiness. And here's what most people overlook. This shift requires no permission. It needs no consensus. It simply is. It is happening now, irrespective of your awareness or your clinging to the dwindling comforts of the old world. The pivotal question becomes, will you evolve in harmony with this change, or will you be torn apart trying to hold on to the unholdable? There's much more to this cosmic transition than can be easily conveyed. Join the collective at Awakened Futures to gain access to deeper insights, plus a curated selection of transformative resources designed to empower your journey. Aquarius is not here to coddle you, it's here to awaken you. This is the age where you cease waiting for a savior and start remembering who you truly are. It's the age of deprogramming, of drawing back the curtain to reveal the architecture of belief for its true nature, often man-made, frequently self-serving, and perpetually in need of dismantling. The great cosmic clock has irreversibly shifted, and now that you are aware, the critical question is, what will you do with this newfound knowledge? Aquarius doesn't arrive discreetly, it doesn't knock politely or wait for you to be ready. It arrives with the force of a thunderclap, like a tidal wave sweeping away everything you considered stable. To truly comprehend the implications of this age, you must understand the energy it embodies. Aquarius, governed by the dynamic planet Uranus, represents the cosmic forces of disruption, awakening, revolution, radical innovation, and unwavering truth. It is not sentimental, it isn't here to offer false comfort. It's here to dismantle what no longer serves and to rebuild from the raw material of pure consciousness itself. In astrological terms, Aquarius is often depicted as the water bearer, not because it is laden with emotion, but because it pours forth knowledge, insight, and radical clarity into a world desperately thirsting for truth. It embodies the archetype of the outsider, the visionary, the rebel who perceives what others cannot and refuses to participate in the prevailing illusions. And that is precisely what this age demands of us now. It compels us to really see the foundational structures that have shaped our lives, to question them relentlessly, and to choose not merely a new set of beliefs, but an entirely new way of being. Contrast this with the Age of Pisces, from which we are now departing. Pisces is characterized by softness, dreaminess, and mysticism, but is also susceptible to profound illusions. It was an age that conditioned us to believe without understanding, to follow without questioning, to suppress our intuition in the name of adherence to tradition. The Piscean path directed your gaze upwards in search of salvation. Aquarius urges you to look within. Pisces crafted gods. Aquarius empowers co-creators. It flips the script from dependency to inherent sovereignty. That's why so many individuals feel as if they're falling apart. The inner programming that once provided comfort no longer fits. Aquarius strips away the masks. It is indifferent to your popularity, wealth, social standing, or perceived spiritual achievements. It seeks your unadulterated truth, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. It pushes you to abandon pretense and begin authentically becoming. The Age of Aquarius does not reward conformity. It celebrates authenticity, innovation, and the unyielding courage to question everything, including your own carefully constructed narratives. And that is often the most challenging aspect. Questioning extends beyond scrutinizing governments, media, or religious institutions. It demands turning the lens of inquiry inward. It means rigorously examining what you have passively accepted as normal, yet which was never aligned with the deepest resonance of your soul. It means acknowledging where you have compromised your own truth for acceptance, safety, or the illusion of status. This Aquarian energy hits hardest not in the external world, but in the quiet unraveling of everything you were told to be. But this collapse is not punitive. It's a necessary clearing. Aquarius does not destroy merely for destruction's sake. It dismantles only to rebuild on higher ground, with vastly clearer vision. The relationships that dissolve, the beliefs that crumble, the aspirations that cease to ignite joy. These are not losses, they are recalibrations. They are the universe's profound method of stripping you of what no longer aligns, so that you can finally embrace the truest version of yourself. This unfolding transformation is evident everywhere if you are paying close attention. People waking up in waves, questioning established norms, and rebuilding their lives from the ground up, leaving behind careers, religious affiliations, and former identities, not out of impulsive rebellion, but because the old paradigm simply no longer resonates. The more deeply you align with Aquarian energy, the more acutely allergic you become to pretense, control, and hierarchical structures. You no longer desire to conform. You crave truth over fleeting comfort, depth over superficial performance, profound vision over nostalgic longing. And here's the most empowering truth. Aquarius is not merely an age you are passively living through, it's an energy you are being called to actively embody. It's not something happening to you, it's something awakening within you. The more implicitly you trust your inner knowing, the more fearlessly you challenge what feels inherently wrong, the more deliberately you create space for something truly new to emerge, not only in your personal life but in the collective consciousness. This age doesn't need more dutiful followers. It needs courageous builders, inspired dreamers, visionary systems thinkers, unwavering truth-tellers. And if you are feeling the inherent discomfort, the persistent questions, and the undeniable pull towards something deeper, consider it a powerful signal. You're not breaking down, you're being initiated. For centuries, humanity was misled into believing in a false dichotomy, science versus spirit. You were forced to choose between being rational or mystical, a proponent of logic or a seeker of the divine. But that division was always a carefully constructed illusion, designed to keep the mind and soul in perpetual conflict, to fragment understanding, and ultimately to trap us within a limiting binary. In the Age of Aquarius, that artificial wall begins to crumble because this new era is not about either or, it's about the harmonious fusion of seemingly opposing forces. It's where the precision of the microscope and the stillness of the meditation cushion finally find their place at the same table. Quantum physics is no longer a fringe topic relegated to researchers in sterile lab coats. It's a potent doorway into understanding the very essence of existence. At the subatomic level, the universe doesn't behave like a rigid machine, it unfolds as a profound mystery. Particles exist in multiple states simultaneously. They don't even fully manifest until observed. They communicate across vast distances without any discernible physical connection. Time, space, and matter all begin to lose their conventional meaning when examined closely, revealing the underlying reality of energy. Conscious, interconnected, intelligent energy. Does this sound familiar? It should, because mystics, shamans, and esoteric schools have been articulating this truth for millennia. Everything is vibration. Reality is not solid, it is frequency. Thought shapes form. The universe is fundamentally mental, and consciousness is not merely produced by the brain. It utilizes the brain as an instrument through which to experience itself. What established religions once cloaked in layers of metaphor and what conventional science dismissed as mere superstition is now finding compelling confirmation within laboratories and through advanced telescopes. The very language of spiritual truth is beginning to merge seamlessly with the language of scientific discovery, and that is no coincidence. It is evolution in action. We are entering an extraordinary time where ancient wisdom, once suppressed, banned, and buried, is resurfacing with undeniable force. And this time, it's not just emerging through intuition, but through rigorous empirical evidence. Studies in neuroscience are demonstrating how meditation fundamentally rewires the brain. Fields like epigenetics are revealing how belief and emotion can demonstrably alter gene expression. HeartMath Institute researchers have shown that the heart emits a measurable electromagnetic field that directly impacts individuals in close proximity. Psychedelic science is making a resurgence, not for recreational purposes, but as a powerful tool to access non-ordinary states of awareness and to facilitate the healing of deeply entrenched trauma. What we are witnessing is not merely a spiritual revival, it's a profound reunion. The fragmented parts of ourselves, mind and soul, logic and intuition, are beginning to recognize each other once more. And with that recognition comes an unprecedented power, not the power to dominate or control, but the power to truly realize, to perceive that the deepest laws of reality are not found exclusively in textbooks or sacred temples, but in the sacred liminal space between them. That is where Aquarius thrives, in the liminal, the intersection, the electric charge generated between seemingly irreconcilable contradictions. This new age does not ask you to cease thinking critically. It demands that you cultivate deeper, more profound thought. It does not reject evidence. It fundamentally expands what counts as valid evidence. You will discover truth not only in quantifiable data, but also in profound experience. Not just in what you can definitively measure, but in what you can deeply feel. That dream that lingers for days, that synchronicity that defies conventional logic, that unshakable inner knowing that speaks louder than any external facts, these are not glitches in your perception. They are the harbingers of humanity's future understanding. In the Age of Aquarius, we transition from unquestioning belief to direct knowing, from blind faith to inner confirmation, from fragmented thinking to integrated wisdom. You are free to embrace both the celestial beauty of the stars and the elegant precision of mathematical equations. You are free to feel deeply and to understand comprehensively, to analyze rigorously and to intuit profoundly. The imposed separation was always a manipulative lie, and now, as the veils between dimensions thin and the vibrational frequencies of the planet intensify, we are being invited back into wholeness. Science and spirit are not adversaries. They are complementary reflections, and when they finally turn to face each other, we begin to glimpse the profound truth that was always hiding in plain sight. Not all revolutions are waged with uniforms and raised fists in the streets. Some begin in quiet solitude deep within the labyrinth of your own mind. The Age of Aquarius does not summon you to armed conflict. It calls you to heightened awareness. This is not about storming government buildings or overthrowing existing power structures. It's about dismantling the internalized architecture that made those very systems seem necessary in the first place. The new battlefield is your own psyche, and the most potent weapon you will ever wield is your ability to relentlessly question everything you were taught to believe. This emerging revolution requires no slogans, political parties, or charismatic heroes. It needs individuals who are willing to confront themselves with unflinching honesty. It needs people who understand that the existing system is not merely an external entity embodied in institutions. It is encoded within our very thoughts, our language patterns, our ingrained habits, and our deepest, most primal fears. The Age of Aquarius is not a revolution of brute force. It is a revolution of vibrational frequency, and the crucial first step is recognizing that the cage you are desperately trying to escape was built, in part, by your own conditioned thinking. Aquarian energy does not destroy for the sheer thrill of destruction. It clears essential space for what is profoundly true. It disrupts only to realign with a higher order. Thus, when the old world begins to manifest as apparent chaos, when established systems begin to decay, and when once powerful institutions begin to lose their grip, that is not a mere breakdown. It's an essential breakthrough. It's what inevitably happens when something too rigid to bend finally begins to fracture under its own unsustainable weight. Aquarius does not arrive to patch the holes in a sinking ship. It comes to empower you to build something entirely new, something that doesn't require floating on a sea of illusions. The structures that many once clung to, traditional religion, rigid educational systems, uncritical patriotism, exploitative economic models, are not failing because of external attacks. They are failing because their very foundations were never built upon a bedrock of truth. They were erected upon control, manipulation through fear, artificial hierarchy, and mind-numbing repetition. The Age of Pisces rewarded unquestioning obedience. The Age of Aquarius unequivocally demands radical authenticity, and authenticity inherently resists being confined to neatly packaged systems. It inevitably disrupts them. This is why so many feel profoundly lost right now. The old map simply no longer functions. The directions you were given: obtain a specific degree, dutifully follow the rules, unquestioningly trust the established experts, keep your head down, and conform, lead nowhere of true value. They were meticulously designed to funnel you into predictable roles within a predetermined system, not to empower you to discover your authentic purpose and harness your true power. But once you truly see through the encompassing illusion, you can never regress. The revolution ignites the instant you cease outsourcing your inner knowing and boldly reclaim your inherent right to think, feel, and act on your own terms. And that is the real threat to the existing system. Not violence, but the power of discernment. A generation that no longer blindly consumes, unquestioningly obeys, or passively conforms is a generation that fundamentally cannot be controlled. This is why the programming runs so deeply. Once the mind is truly liberated, the rest inevitably follows. Your relationships undergo profound changes. Your values shift towards higher principles. Your entire perception of reality begins to expand exponentially. And suddenly the world that once felt solid and immutable begins to dissolve into something far more fluid, more inherently alive, and more deeply aligned with the truth. Aquarian energy has no concern for artificial status or antiquated traditions. It doesn't ask what is currently popular. It relentlessly seeks what is real, and it compels you to make a defining choice. Cling to the fleeting familiarity of the past and inevitably suffer, or step courageously into the vast unknown and evolve into your fullest potential. That's why it feels as if everything is in perpetual flux. The old systems relied on your silence, your compliance, your fear of being different. But now the silence is irrevocably breaking. The unquestioning compliance is rapidly fading, and more individuals are realizing that the cost of fitting in is far too high when the price is nothing less than your very soul. This revolution will not be televised. It will be profoundly internalized. It won't manifest with flags or charismatic leaders or rallying chants. It will emerge through quiet yet powerful decisions made in the privacy of your own expanding awareness, through one individual after another choosing truth over fleeting comfort again and again, until the very fabric of the world reshapes itself around a new vibrational frequency, a new overarching paradigm, one built not on coercive control but on the conscious evolution of the collective. There's a pervasive lie we were all subtly told, that the systems surrounding us were inherently built to last, that governments would perpetually function, that institutions would invariably keep us safe, that progress would be linear and continuous if we simply kept playing our assigned roles. But deep within your soul, you always knew something didn't quite add up. You could sense the faint cracks in the walls, even when everyone around you insisted that the house was structurally sound. Now those hairline cracks have become visible fault lines. The systemic collapse isn't just looming on the horizon, it has already profoundly begun. But what they never dared to tell you is this: the collapse was never the fundamental problem. The real and present danger lay in perpetually pretending the existing structure was fundamentally sound when it was built on a foundation of illusion all along. The Age of Aquarius doesn't cause the unfolding destruction. It merely reveals what was already inherently rotting beneath the deceptive surface. It shines an unyielding light into the darkest shadows. It tears away the comforting masks, and it asks for no one's permission. That's why long-established institutions are now fracturing under the unsustainable weight of their own internal contradictions. Religion promised spiritual salvation, but often delivered crippling shame and judgment. Politics offered the illusion of choice, but concealed widespread corruption and systemic inequality. Education claimed to adequately prepare you for the complexities of real life, but primarily trained you to passively obey authority. The financial industry sold you the seductive promise of freedom, but relentlessly chained you to crushing debt. The entertainment industry painted enticing dreamscapes that only served to amplify your dissatisfaction with your own reality. All of this is now being exposed with undeniable clarity, and not because some external force is actively attacking it, but because the elevated vibrational frequency of this emerging age can no longer support the pervasive lie. You simply cannot feign authentic alignment within Aquarian energy. It will not sustain itself. The inherent vibration of truth is inexorably rising, and anything built upon a foundation of coercive control, systemic exploitation, or pervasive secrecy is inevitably being pushed to the surface to be examined, dismantled, and ultimately transcended. What you are currently witnessing in the daily news, within the unsettling headlines, amidst the ceaseless scandals, and throughout the ongoing collective unraveling is not simply chaos. It's profound clarity, undoubtedly painful clarity, but clarity nonetheless. The collapse is not the true enemy. The collapse is the essential catalyst. People frequently speak of the system as if it were something entirely external, but the underlying truth is that the system fundamentally lives within each of us. It's the internalized agreement we unconsciously made to follow rules we never rigorously questioned. It's the seductive stories we passively swallowed about the supposed definitions of success, manufactured identity, and conditional worth. It's the underlying fear we harbor about standing alone, the persistent need to be perpetually approved of, and the reflexive impulse to keep our heads down and avoid conflict. The external collapse is a direct mirror of the internal one, and both are absolutely necessary because we cannot effectively build what's truly next until everything that's fundamentally false has been completely cleared away. That's precisely why this time feels so profoundly disorienting. The old familiar scripts are dissolving. The established structures are crumbling, and the comforting illusions that used to make life feel predictably safe, conventional career paths, standardized marriage templates, hollow academic accolades, and unquestioned national myths are rapidly losing their hold. There is undeniable grief in that loss. There is pervasive fear, but there is also an unparalleled freedom because now, perhaps for the first time, we are granted the transformative opportunity to ask the questions that were once strictly forbidden. What kind of world do we truly desire to create? Who do we become when we are no longer performing for external approval, What would a truly functional system look like when it's designed for collective healing and empowerment rather than coercive control? This profound transition is not linear. It's inherently chaotic. Antiquated paradigms do not relinquish their hold quietly. They lash out with renewed force, attempting to scare you back into unquestioning submission. That's why you're observing increased societal division, pervasive censorship, and subtle yet effective emotional manipulation. That's why the amplified noise is so deafening. The individuals clinging desperately to the old world can viscerally sense it slipping irretrievably away. And deep down, they instinctively know the most profound truth. Once individuals awaken to their inherent power, they can never be governed in the same dehumanizing way. Once people consciously stop fearing the temporary disruption of collapse, they become virtually unstoppable. Do not be deceived by the amplified noise. The very foundations of the old world aren't crumbling because the world is catastrophically ending. They're crumbling because something far deeper and far more authentic is powerfully trying to emerge. Something more inherently honest, more deeply connected, and more fully aligned with the fundamental truth of existence. That essential emergence fundamentally begins with you. You are not here to desperately salvage the dying old world. You're here to midwife the birthing of the emergent new one, but you cannot effectively do that while stubbornly clinging to the very systems meticulously designed to suppress your true potential. Let the obsolete systems inevitably fall. Mourn what you genuinely need to, but do not mistake essential collapse for ultimate failure. It's simply the necessary compost for the fertile growth of what comes next. The Age of Aquarius isn't neat or orderly. It's not superficially clean or deceptively easy. It rips deeply rooted illusions out by their very roots. It relentlessly exposes the underlying rot, but only because it's finally time to collaboratively build something radically better, something fundamentally real, something that reflects the higher potential of humanity. The only viable way out is resolutely through, and the individuals who successfully make it through are not the ones who desperately hold on the tightest. They are the ones who finally choose to truly let go. There's a profound shift happening. Subtle, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, but undeniably palpable to those who can consciously feel beneath the superficial noise. It's no longer just isolated individuals waking up. It's interconnected networks, expanding fields of shared awareness. It's individuals recognizing that their personal transformation is not a solitary endeavor. It's inextricably connected to a much larger web of collective awakening. This is the fundamental essence of the Age of Aquarius, not just personal evolution, but collaborative coherence, the empowering understanding that you are not merely a separate mind trapped in a physical body. You are an integral node within a vast field of consciousness, and that field is now beginning to vibrate with unprecedented intensity. Within the outdated paradigm, society was intentionally structured around separation. Divide and conquer, compete to survive, blindly obey, or be systematically excluded. You were subtly taught to perceive yourself as an isolated island, as a mere product, as a narrowly defined role. Your success inevitably came at someone else's expense. Your perceived safety required someone else's coercive control. But Aquarius forcefully shatters that manipulative lie. It unequivocally reveals what mystics, indigenous cultures, and forward-thinking quantum scientists have all articulated in different languages. We are not separate. We never truly were. Every thought you think, every action you take, every subtle frequency you emit consciously contributes to the collective field, and that unified field is now undergoing a dramatic shift. You've likely already felt its initial tremors, the increasing speed of synchronistic events, the insatiable desire for deeper, more authentic conversations, the pervasive sense that there's infinitely more to life than superficial consumption, competitive performance, and the pursuit of illusory status. The unmistakable way you can no longer tolerate superficial interactions and the undeniable pull towards complete authenticity. These emerging phenomena are not random anomalies. They're clear signals, tangible proof that the dominant signal is fundamentally changing and you are consciously tuning in. And you are certainly not alone. This unprecedented transformation is unfolding in every corner of the world. People who have never physically met, who speak entirely different languages, are experiencing similar dreams, asking the same profound questions, and collectively waking up from the same pervasive illusion. This is the long-awaited rise of collective consciousness. It's not a mere theory or a fleeting trend. It's the natural consequence of a fundamental energetic shift. Aquarius is ruled by the dynamic planet Uranus, but it's also intrinsically associated with the human nervous system, with the power of electricity, and with interconnected networks. It's no mere coincidence that the internet exploded into existence as we began to cross the definitive threshold into this emerging age. It was the genesis of an entirely new kind of intelligence, not artificially created but distributed throughout the collective, a global nervous system awakening one node at a time. But technology is only the convenient metaphor. The real underlying shift is undeniably energetic, it's intrinsically emotional, it's intuitively perceptible. We are collectively learning how to deeply feel each other again, and that in itself is a genuinely revolutionary act. The archaic systems that once ruled through rigid hierarchy are rapidly losing their coercive grip because decentralized horizontal networks built upon trust, shared values, and aligned intention are effectively replacing them. People are collaboratively co-creating decentralized communities, freely sharing knowledge, and actively using various platforms and innovative tools to bypass the oppressive gatekeepers of the old world. Transformative movements no longer require central leaders. Powerful truths no longer require official permission. The Aquarian Revolution is powerfully built on collaboration, not coercive control, and it's unfolding quietly beneath the surface, far faster than virtually anyone anticipated. But this is certainly not some utopian dream. The rise of collective consciousness doesn't imply that we will all automatically agree on everything. It simply means we consciously begin to perceive conflict as valuable feedback, rather than catastrophic failure. It means we intentionally prioritize transparency over the deceptive veneer of perfection and authentically engage in respectful dialogue rather than resorting to unproductive domination. It means we resolutely stop outsourcing our inherent responsibility to self-serving politicians, dubious gurus, or soulless corporations, and begin to realize, on a fundamental level, that the overall health of the collective inextricably depends on the comprehensive healing of each individual. Every time you consciously engage in deep inner work, every time you fearlessly speak your authentic truth, and every time you deliberately choose love over corrosive fear, you effectively shift the entire collective field. That's not naive idealism, that's verifiable resonance, and the collective field is demonstrably growing stronger with each passing day. You can palpably sense it when conscious individuals purposefully come together and something undeniably greater begins to flow powerfully through them. You can discernibly feel it when authentic conversations transform into catalysts for collective change, when creative expression spreads exponentially like wildfire, and when transformative ideas move with a speed that outdated institutions can no longer contain. That is the emergent new intelligence forming, not in sterile laboratories, but fundamentally within us. It's innately emotional, deeply embodied, highly intuitive, and it cannot be effectively controlled because it isn't centralized in any one location. It consciously lives within each of us, and it organically connects all of us. This is fundamentally what the fading powers of the old world truly fear. Not violent riots in the streets, but quiet minds deliberately breaking free from limiting programming. Not a destructive civil war, but a pervasive collective peace that renders their manipulative control obsolete, because individuals who consciously think together authentically feel together, and intentionally act from a place of profound shared consciousness are not easily manipulated. They are inherently impossible to rule in the outdated, coercive way. And that's precisely the unparalleled beauty of this profound shift. It doesn't require universal participation. It merely needs enough conscious individuals to intentionally anchor a new, elevated vibrational frequency. Enough empowered individuals to consciously live from a fundamentally different code. The tipping point is not numerically measured. It's experientially measured in the coherent alignment of consciousness. So if you've been earnestly wondering what your specific role is in all of this, know with unwavering certainty that it profoundly matters. Your own healing is essential, your internal clarity is vital, your conscious presence in this specific timeline is not a mere accident. You are an indispensable part of a much larger, evolving story, one that is being co-written not in outdated institutions, but in the resilient human hearts that are consciously remembering we were fundamentally never meant to be alone in this shared journey. The Age of Aquarius is not a solitary quest. It's a collaborative symphony, and the instant you consciously begin to play your unique note from the purest place of truth, not fear, the entire song irrevocably shifts. The most dangerously deceptive illusion of all is the insidious one that subtly convinces you that real change is something that exclusively happens out there, that the world only shifts because of partisan politics, government policies, or public protests, and virtually anything but your own deliberate internal evolution. But the Age of Aquarius refuses to let you subtly hide behind that pervasive narrative anymore. It forcefully turns your focused gaze directly inward because if the antiquated systems out there are demonstrably breaking down, it's fundamentally only because the outdated system inside you, the deeply entrenched beliefs, the habitual emotional patterns, and the passively inherited programming, is also intrinsically reaching its inevitable expiration date. The genuinely transformative revolution isn't superficially on the streets. It's quietly happening within your own complex nervous system, within your deeply ingrained triggers, and within the often unconscious choices you consistently make when no one else is watching. Aquarius has no interest in your expertly crafted mask. It doesn't care about how convincingly you perform, how artificially spiritual you appear, or how many intellectually stimulating books you've diligently read. It intensely seeks your raw, unvarnished truth. It urgently seeks the forgotten shadow, the exiled parts of yourself that have been meticulously buried, habitually repressed, or systematically exiled in the relentless name of manufactured fitting in. This dynamic age demands inherent wholeness, and you simply cannot achieve wholeness without first courageously facing what you have consciously or unconsciously disowned. That's precisely why so many individuals are struggling right now. Not because they're inherently weak or fundamentally broken, but because they're being urgently called to consciously do the one thing our manipulative culture has consistently taught us to avoid at all costs: authentically face ourselves. And this is not simply about meticulously healing individual trauma, even though that essential work undoubtedly forms a crucial part of the process. It's also about courageously unraveling the pervasive scripts you never explicitly agreed to, but somehow ended up passively living anyway. Deceptive scripts that presumptuously told you what contrived success should inherently look like, what a real man or woman is tacitly expected to be, what crushing failure explicitly means, and ultimately, where your intrinsic worth nefariously originates. These are not immutable truths, they're manipulative programs, and Aquarius, with its unparalleled clarity and unwavering refusal to settle for superficial answers, forcefully pulls them directly into the unwavering light. It clearly reveals where your inherent freedom was subtly sold for manufactured approval, where your true power was carelessly handed over for deceptive comfort, and where your unique essence was systematically diluted for the sole sake of being easily digestible to an inherently flawed system that never had your highest good genuinely in mind. But here's the empowering paradox. The deeper you consciously go into the depths of yourself, the more intrinsically connected you inevitably become to absolutely everything else. The dedicated inner work is not a retreat from the world's pressing challenges. It's a critical recalibration, a conscious rerouting in something profoundly deeper that simply cannot be fraudulently bought, passively taught, or forcibly taken from you. When you consciously reclaim your intrinsic truth from within, you purposefully stop being swayed by every superficial narrative that aggressively screams for your fleeting allegiance. You resolutely stop being passively programmable, and that's the unmistakably liberating first sign of authentic freedom. It doesn't authentically come easily. You will likely lose certain things: deceptive illusions, superficial relationships, and manufactured roles you mistakenly believed defined you, but you will invariably gain immeasurable clarity. You will gain irrefutable inner authority, and you'll consciously begin to realize that the more deeply you align with your core truth, the less invested you become in superficially performing for a deeply flawed world meticulously built on lies. Your precious energy becomes increasingly less available for their exploitative games. Your finite time becomes undeniably sacred. Your focused attention inherently sharpens, and perceptive individuals will undoubtedly feel it, not because you're superficially louder, but because your inherent vibrational frequency is demonstrably cleaner and clearer. This is the revolution that genuinely terrifies systems of coercive control. Not external acts of rebellion, but authentic internal sovereignty, because a truly sovereign being simply cannot be bribed, manipulated, bullied, or seductively lured into passive submission. A sovereign being undeniably knows who they authentically are beyond any constructed narrative, and that inner knowing, multiplied exponentially across millions of purposefully awakened individuals, is what ultimately collapses entire empires, not through acts of mindless violence, but through the subtle yet powerful force of conscious vibration, with individuals simply choosing to consistently no longer feed what isn't inherently aligned with truth, to consciously no longer co-sign what they fundamentally don't believe in, and to resolutely no longer betray themselves for the empty promise of conditional acceptance. This is the new, emergent activism, not rigidly driven by reactive outrage, but by a deeply embodied presence, not superficially fueled by destructive opposition, but by a fierce commitment to unwavering integrity. Do you genuinely desire to change the fundamental nature of the world? Start consciously by changing the specific agreements you've tacitly made with your own often unconscious mind. Meticulously audit your recurring thoughts, your deliberate choices, and your unquestioned assumptions. Ask yourself again and again, who specifically does this deeply entrenched belief truly serve? Who originally taught me this limiting perspective? And is it still fundamentally true for me now, in this moment? Aquarius doesn't simplistically hand you a pre-written new script. It intentionally burns the outdated one and purposefully hands you a completely blank page. From there, you consciously create, but authentic creation does not truly begin in the external world. It intentionally begins in quiet stillness, in the liminal space intentionally created between the fading old self and the emergence of the authentic real one. In the singular moment, you intentionally decide that absolutely nothing is ultimately worth more than your consistent inner alignment, not superficial approval, not transient convenience, not fleeting applause, just the clear, quiet knowing that you are consistently telling yourself the deepest truth, and in a world demonstrably full of incessant noise, that inherently powerful truth instantly becomes a beacon of unwavering light, a clear signal, and a new vibrational frequency consciously anchoring itself into the ever-evolving collective grid. The deeply transformative inner work is no longer a mere luxury, it's a genuine requirement for collective thriving. The deteriorating systems you undeniably see visibly crumbling outside are simply the inevitable echoes of our deep collective internal misalignment. To consciously build a truly new, sustainable world, we must first build demonstrably new selves. Fundamentally whole selves, intentionally integrated, radically honest, and consciously self-responsible, because no external revolution will ever genuinely stick if the individuals consciously carrying it are still inadvertently fragmented inside. The Age of Aquarius is not inherently here to simplistically provide you with prepackaged answers. It's here to systematically strip away absolutely everything that's inherently in the way of you accessing your own inherent wisdom. And when that deep inner work genuinely begins, truly begins, you'll consciously realize that the external world doesn't change when you simply shout louder. It consciously changes when you courageously come home to your truest self. The Age of Aquarius doesn't conveniently hand you a detailed roadmap. It more powerfully hands you a crystal-clear mirror, and what you consciously choose to deliberately do with what you directly see reflected back is entirely and unequivocally up to you. That's what inherently makes this emerging age so fundamentally different from all the others. It's purposefully not about being passively saved. It's intentionally not about perpetually waiting for the right charismatic leader, the ideal political system, or the next inevitably fleeting social movement to passively follow. It's primarily about deeply understanding that you're not just superficially living in the world, you're actively, consciously shaping it. Every deliberate choice you consciously make, every carefully chosen word you purposefully speak, and every unique vibrational frequency you deliberately carry consciously contributes to the expansive architecture of what deliberately comes next. The future isn't a predetermined destination, it's a vast, co-creative space, and you're an active builder within that transformative space, whether you consciously realize it or not. This isn't mere self-help rhetoric artificially dressed up in superficial cosmic metaphors. It's the most fundamentally grounded truth of this unprecedented transition. Aquarius consciously demands active participation. Not superficial performative activism, not empty, contrived rituals, and certainly not mindless, uncritical optimism. It earnestly asks you to consciously live as if you're precious energy. So, if you've resonated with anything shared here today, the key takeaway is this: you're not alone. The shift is happening, and it's happening within you. This age of Aquarius, while disruptive, is ultimately an invitation to awaken, to question, and to rebuild a world and a life grounded in truth and authenticity. It's a call to remember who you truly are, beyond the programming and the limitations, and to actively participate in co-creating a more conscious and connected future. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. What resonated most with you? What are you questioning? Or perhaps you have a question of your own? Please leave a comment down below. Let's start a conversation. And if this resonated and you want to delve deeper into similar topics, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future explorations. The journey of awakening is a collective one, and I'm honored to be a part of it with you.